Welcome everyone to today's Renewable Energy Project Finance Modeling Information session. I'm really glad you're here. It's nice to meet you. If you've got any questions throughout, please just jump in and use the chat function here on Zoom and I'll answer them as soon as I can. I've also got some time at the end where you can just ask any questions, so if you feel better just waiting, also feel free to do that. Okay, we'll get into it and I'll keep this as brief as I can, try and keep it to 15 minutes so you can ask any questions you'd like to. Before sort of diving into detail, I think it's worthwhile just introducing ourselves. I think if you're taking a financial modeling training course, you would love to know that the people actually leading the course have experience and they know what they're doing. And this is us on the screen. That's me down the bottom left and Dan on the bottom right. And with Pivotal180 courses, you're being taught by Dan or me. We're not people who've just studied this academically. We're also not people that have just a couple of years of experience. Got a few more gray hairs than that. We have invested in or advised on billions of dollars worth of transactions over a number of decades and all across the world. And we've worked on all the major continents with one exception of Antarctica. If any of you have projects in Antarctica, we'd love to help. And I said all courses are led by Dan or myself. Now, my introduction, I've been a financial advisor in project finance for 15 years, covering renewable energy, infrastructure, mining. And I've lived in New Zealand, Australia, Singapore, Abu Dhabi, Germany, the UK, and the US. So a lot of different countries. After working in Sydney for a company called Navigator Project Finance, I then led Corellity's business in the Americas and the Europe, Middle East, and Africa region before I became a partner at Mazar, and I was co-head of infrastructure and energy in the Americas. And I was also head of financial modeling there for a period of time as well. So I've led valuations, transactions, financial modeling engagements, and as part of my job, I've trained over 1,000 analysts all around the world. I'm also a lecturer at Yale University and an adjunct professor at Columbia. Dan, same but different. He's been in the renewable energy space for around 25 years, and he started his career at General Electric, where he ultimately became the head of the renewable energy investments team. And at the time, they were the largest investor in power assets in the US. He then moved on to Goldman Sachs, where he was in the special situations group. He led private equity investments in the renewable energy space, and he ultimately seeded a couple of very, very well-known companies in the US, one which was SunEdison, upon which he was on the board of, well before things went astray with SunEdison. After that, Dan raised his own fund, about $1 billion in 2009, which is no easy feat. And during that time, actually, Dan found this real passion for teaching. And Dan is also an adjunct professor at Columbia and a lecturer at Yale. And we actually met each other at Columbia and now co-teach there. So we both have a lot of real world experience, but we really have a true passion for teaching. And it's taken years to develop what we've actually developed. And we really do truly care about how people assimilate information. And so that's really a little bit about us. So why take our courses? Look, first and foremost, you may wish to distinguish just yourself from others in your team or distinguish your whole team from others in the market. And a lot of people come on the courses to improve their best practice modeling skills. And we really try and focus on what the concepts are that are important to the transaction. And best practice models are, of course, very important in project finance. And a good financial model is a way to impress your colleagues or maybe a counterparty in a transaction. So you don't want to have a nice information pack and a terrible, ugly looking model. You need both your model and the accompanying documentation to be slick and professionally presented. It's also a chance to consolidate your understanding of how legal documents are tied together with the model and how to structure and size an investment. Look, if you're just looking to get a job in the sector, financial modeling is a critical component of both the interview and a large part of your job when you start. So this course will help you absolutely ace the interview and the first few years on the job. And job interviews also contain questions around the commercial and legal aspects of a deal. So you need to be able to speak concretely about deal structures and the documents required. It's also a chance just to take a step back. Sometimes we spend our whole life involved in transactions or in a particular sector, and we never have a chance just to step back and say, hey, why am I doing this stuff? How does this tie together with what Josephine over there does every day? So it's a way sometimes to just connect the different pieces of a transaction, gain that broader understanding, and make you ultimately a stronger project finance professional. And so who attends our courses? Well, number one is students, clearly people looking to get a job in the sector, either MBA students or fresh graduates out of undergrad. But by far the two biggest cohorts start first of all with what we call the first to fourth year analysts and associates. And when I say that, I really mean people in their first 5 years of financial modeling or transactions. And the type of things we teach on the course are directly applicable to their roles, i.e. the things we do in our course is probably what they're going to be doing the next day in their role. So it's very, very applicable to what they actually do. We also get a lot of what I call mid-career career changes or MBA students. Perhaps you're an engineer, you've been dealing with construction contracts for the last 5 or 6 years, or you've been working on a bond trading desk and you want to transfer the skills you already have into a project finance skill set. So you need to understand how to build these really complex financial models and how all these legal documents tie together. Those concepts could be new, but you already have a pretty good basic understanding of finance. So those, first 5-year analysts and associates and mid-career career changes are the biggest cohort. But we also have a lot of more senior participants, particularly people in, say, business development roles who don't have to get so involved with all the details of the project finance transaction, but they want to understand it a little bit more. Otherwise, it could be people who maybe have less of a project finance background, but they're responsible for either running a financial modeling team who reports to them. So they make decisions off the financial models. And they have to ask the right questions. What questions do you ask in order to check that the analyst has done their work properly, or just to evaluate their work as a whole? So you don't do this work every day, but you have to review it. And again, it's a chance to step back and to see the big picture. And what I'd say the more senior participants, but not necessarily more senior, I'd also include government employees. Perhaps you're a government employee and you negotiate against the private sector. You have to evaluate an independent power producer's bid to build a solar power plant or a wind project and connect to your grid. Well, to do that, you need to be able to back calculate the economics of the private sector. You need to understand how the private sector thinks. And this course is focused on a developer or an equity investor developing and owning a project. It's a good way to step into their shoes and understand how they think about a transaction. Right, so what do? Well, of course, we build a project finance model from scratch. It's a project finance modeling course, but Dan and I firmly believe that you can't learn modeling if you don't understand the broader transaction. It's not just about modeling. You need to learn how things tie together. What are the risks? How are they mitigated? How do the contracts deal with risk? And what are the important parts of the model? We are not just modeling coders. Many of the other trainers in project finance are exactly that. They're just modeling coders. They don't cover the documents, the risks, how to forecast wind and build the world's best financial models like we do. So outside of building the best project finance models, you learn the project finance concepts and contracts. What are those different contracts and how do they tie together? You learn how to size debt, how to structure the repayments and to model the output covenants in a deal, how to calculate things like generation, curtailment, and degradation. Learn how to forecast wind, and you importantly learn about the different probabilities. You may have heard of things like P50 and P99. What are those and how do they work and how are they relevant? Operational calculations, i.e. build up the revenues and the costs, etc. Learn how to create scenarios and sensitivities. Calculate tax and depreciation. Learn how to build 3-way financial statements, your cash flow waterfall, your income statement, and your balance sheet. Calculate investor returns for different types of investors. The debt service reserve account. Outputs for a model. A financial model is only as good as how it's presented. And you learn how to optimize a transaction to achieve a certain target return. And to do that, we also have an introduction to VBA, so you can learn the basic macros required in a typical project finance model. And for those of you who are in the US, we also have an introduction to tax equity. Really crazy, weird structure for those not in the US, but critical to anybody working in the US. And it is worth saying that we have a tax equity course, which is about the same length and duration as a renewable course for anyone in the US. That's a highly recommended course after having completed this particular course. So we have a number of different ways we teach the course as well. First is online self-paced learning. And basically you can buy one of these courses online, and that includes our renewable energy project finance, our project finance and infrastructure, and our tax equity class. You can buy them online. There are some discounts, including a 50% discount for students. There's around 20 hours of content, and you have 12 months access to this course, and you can just learn at your own pace. There's videos explaining concepts, there's Excel downloads, and there's a complete model walkthrough, line by line through the whole model from start to finish. And if you don't finish this course, and there's around 20 hours of content, and it probably takes most participants around 50 hours to complete the whole thing, then you can extend the license for $100 a year after the 12 months. And we are always adding new information and new things to this course, and we'll continue to do so over time. In addition to that, we have sort of a premium product, which we call live streamed courses. And this is an extension of our public courses, which were the in-person courses. And so again, here you can just buy a course, and it's open to people from other organizations. So it's a great chance to network and meet others. And it used to be a 3-day in-person class, but we now run this as 9 sessions. Each session is 2.5 hours long. And the reason for that is people can't sit in front of a computer for 8 hours and learn. It's just too hard. So it's 2.5 hours with a 10-minute break in between. So you can really focus on what you need to learn. And there's a couple of good things about this session. One is if, for example, you can't make one particular session, well, then we record the session. And that's uploaded to our online platform, so you can go back and review that class. And if you buy the live stream course, you also get full access to our online self-paced class. And the way we sort of run this with 9 2.5-hour sessions is they're spread typically over 3 weeks. And there's homework provided in between each class. And the homework's there because everyone learns at a different pace. We provide homework in between classes. And the homework's there either for you to review concepts, so you can either watch a recording, or we may recommend a particular lesson on the online self-paced platform that you can review before the next class, or it's to dive deeper into topics, things that we just don't have time to review in the live stream class. And the biggest benefit of the live stream class, outside of the networking opportunity, is you can ask any question you want. What that means is we cover a lot of topics that are not contained in the online course. So for example, someone might ask us about, how do you deal with this particular risk in a hydropower project or a biomass project? And, of course, we want to be very responsive, so we might dive a little bit deeper into those topics. So it just covers things that we would never have a chance to cover in the online course. When you do the live stream class, you also can submit your homework, and we'll provide detailed feedback on your model, so it's an additional benefit. Now, the exact time and day we run this course do vary a little bit, and one of the biggest benefits now is live stream courses, we can run them across different time zones. So we can run it across a time zone that covers the Americas and Europe. We can cover time zones that cover sort of all across Asia and to Australia and New Zealand as well. So we try and be as flexible as we can with these courses, such that we can reach out to as many people as possible. What's the biggest benefit of live stream classes? Well, first of all, they're live, so you can ask whatever question you'd like to of us. Second, we provide feedback on your model. A lot of people also like the fact that it's more scheduled out rather than the self-paced learning. So, it forces you to actually achieve certain milestones. And finally, there's obviously a networking component to it as well. You can meet other people and talk to those people. Right. Tailored courses are our most premium product. And we always think that context is a wonderful thing. It's a great way for students to retain information, just because if you're doing something that's similar to the work you do every day, let's say you only do solar projects. Well, let's just discuss solar. Let's discuss solar projects in Ghana, because that's where you spend most of your time. That context is really helpful, and we can tailor courses to anything. Biomass in Ghana, or a hydro project in Vietnam. In the past, we've tailored projects to hydropower in Malawi, including local taxes. We have tailored courses for government organizations that need to negotiate against the private sector. And given our experience that Dan and I collectively have, we can also tailor things sort of to a much wider variety of topics, such as corporate governance or asset management or whatever topic is important to you. These classes can be run virtually, so like the live stream courses, and we use Zoom for that. So there's Q&A boards, we share our screen, we can see each other, but we can also run these in person to the extent that we're permitted to as well. Everyone who joins the tailored courses also gets free access to the online self-paced learning. And of course, we have homework, just like the live stream classes. Now, again, typically these are run over 2.5-hour sessions, but we're entirely flexible based on your organization's needs. Now, one final sort of way that these courses can work, and we're having a lot of interest in this right now, is sort of combining online self-paced learning with live stream. So, for example, an organization may buy 10 licenses for an online course, but they want to ensure that people are hitting certain milestones, and maybe there's also some aspect they want to dive deeper into. So a way this may work is they buy an online self-paced class, and then instead of having 9 sessions, they may say have 3. Session 1 is introduction and to set up the timetable for when people should finish work. Number 2 might be to review people's progress so far and to dive deeper into a particular concept. And maybe 3 is an entirely tailored session designed to maybe model out a term sheet from a particular client, or to consider, say, adding battery storage to a portfolio of solar assets. So entirely flexible is the key out of all of this. Okay, so any questions? Love to hear any questions. I saw a couple pop up and I left most of those until the end of the session. So I'll answer those ones first. So session 1, the live sessions, how frequently do they occur and which days of the week? Well, they're all 2.5 hours long, and typically they're twice per week. But depending on the need of the people, we may vary that a little bit. And which days of the week? Typically Tuesday, Thursday. But again, for these sessions, what happens is we normally pull together people. Once we have that group of people together, we arrange the dates that work best for everyone. And look, if you miss one session, well, there's a recorded session available to you as well. Second question, is there a way to transition from the online course to the live stream course? Absolutely. So if we go back here, let's say you start the online self-paced learning and that goes, 3 months into it, you think, look, I wanted a live stream course. I'm just not managing myself, or look, I just think I'm better in this live stream environment. You can absolutely do that. You can simply transfer to the live stream course and you'll get a full credit for the online course. So easy to do. On the online course, okay. Right, for this next question, I'm actually going to jump in and do a quick demonstration of the online platform. So let me just change my screens here. So here's our online platform. So in the course player here, and on the left-hand side, you can see that there's a number of different chapters. These chapters are the broader topics within which we have individual lessons that cover subtopics such as what is project finance, how investment structures work, etc., etc. And these lessons could be a widescreen video like you see here that I can just press play and watch with a full transcript underneath. It could also be a useful download, or it could be a model walkthrough, which is a complete step-by-step of how to build the model. And for example, if I open up term loans and I skim through these topics, now we typically recommend most people should just start from the beginning and go to the end. But let's say, look, you know how certain bits of these work. You can just come down here, click on, say, this video, and quickly skim the transcript to say, look, is there anything here that I don't know that I should want to go back and have a look at? Or perhaps you've watched the video and you think, look, I wanted to understand this thing about, say, liquidity. So I can copy that and go up into my video and press play.
In the previous lesson,
and now I have my subtitles up because I clicked here and enabled English subtitles. And we are looking to add additional language subtitles later. But if I expand this out and I copy in here liquidity, for example, it takes me to the point of the subtitles with liquidity. I can simply click on this and it will bring me to that point in that video, so I can quickly go back and review what this liquidity thing is, so to speak. Now, in addition to the individual lessons, there's also a discussion forum. So for example, under generation and grid, we can see, let's say, for example, random sampling. Here's a video.
Year by year.
And on the right-hand side here, there is a discussion forum. And the discussion forum here is got a question from Lee on the use of normal distribution curve. Lee has posted a question and Dan has responded to this particular question beneath. Now, everyone can see all of these questions unless the person posting the question hides it for whatever reason. They just don't want their name to be apparent. Okay, so the question that had been posed that made me dive into the online platform was, do you have access to what others are posting in the discussion session? Yes, you do, but you can make it private if you'd like to. Next question is, what level of details does the course go into tax accounts and tax basis? Class A and Class B, both partners, how is that discussed or set up? Okay, I think this question relates to tax equity, as in how far do we go into sort of the tax equity aspect of it. Now, in this course, we introduce the concepts of things like disproportionate allocations, back leverage, the reason for tax equity, but the main tax credits, tax losses, etc. But we don't go into tax capital accounts and tax basis. So if you'd like to learn more about tax equity and all of these capital accounts like 731A gains or 754 step-ups or sponsored buyout options, then you can join our tax equity course. That goes into full detail of all of those capital accounts. Very exciting topic. Is there any overlap between the tax equity course and the renewables course? There is, but very minor. The renewables course is really a precursor or a prerequisite for tax equity, unless you're already really familiar. If you don't know how to do debt sizing, if you don't know how to do tax losses, if you can't calculate maker's depreciation or the different tax credits, then you're not ready for the tax equity course. I'd highly recommend this course first. The only overlap really is a little recap on some of the most basic concepts of tax equity, but there is very little overlap between the two courses. Next question, do the live courses ever take place on Saturdays and Sundays? Not typically, but if there were a request for it and other people were willing, then we could certainly look into it. So good questions, keep them coming. Okay, so do you focus only on renewable energy as a whole, or do you at any point dive into specifics, such as wind energy, solar, or do you focus on renewable energy as a whole? Well, look, this course is really primarily we focused on wind and solar, and the model for all intents and purposes could be used for wind, solar, or hydro. Operationally, they're pretty simple from a financial modeling sense, or pretty similar. And we do go into specifics of each of those, of wind and solar. The live stream courses or the tailored courses can go into any particular technology you'd like to go into. There's no issue there, but the predominant focus is wind and solar. So if you're in wind or solar, this course is equally good for both of you. And another question, is the course designed solely for people who work in the field or for anyone else interested in renewables? Look, first of all, there's no prerequisites. If you have never been in finance, you've never used Excel, you can do this course. If you've been working in the industry doing modeling for a year, this course is still valuable to you because it may cover things that you've just not seen before. You've not seen everything in 1 year, I guarantee you of that. And it helps tie together things like how documents tie to the model. If you're just interested in renewables, I think this is still a great course. You might not want to do all of the detailed modeling, but you may be interested in sort of how this stuff ties together. You might be interested in how people make decisions using a financial model. So I do think it's relevant to you as well. All right, I think that's all the questions. So thanks everyone for joining. If you've got any further questions, please just reach out at any point in time. Happy to help and to answer any additional questions. And I do hope to see you Be lovely to see you in a live stream course where we can interact, but do not worry, there are plenty of discussion board questions. Many of the lessons have 4 or 5 different discussion questions and Q&A about things that go well beyond the course, just out of interest or a deal people are working on. So hopefully I get to see you soon. Thank you.